Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time you're watching this video. In this video, I will be going over the independent practice worksheet that you should have got a head start, probably even completed in class today. I'm breaking these videos up into two problems each. So this first video, I will be going over number 1 and number 2 from that worksheet. They weren't labeled, but if we go in order, you can label them on your own. All right, this is number 1. Write two inequalities that compare the value of P and the value of Q. Show your work. There's a number line, there's a dot at P, there's a dot at Q. First thing I notice, -1 is all the way over here, +1 is all the way over here. So I noticed that there's a lot of tick marks between 0 and 1. That means we're probably talking about like a rational number, either a decimal or a fraction, however you want to think about it. Because there's no whole numbers between 0 and 1. That means this is a rational number for Q and for P. Maybe you want to give them values. Maybe you want to say like, hey, P is this fraction, Q is this fraction. But let's avoid the numbers for now. Let's just think about it as P and Q. If you want to write two inequalities using 2 points, the same points, that means you're going to write the two inequalities using both the less than symbol and the greater than symbol. Those are the two inequalities that we're going to write. An inequality using the less than symbol and an inequality using the greater than symbol. Some of you guys, as you were saying yesterday, know this as like a Pac-Man, an alligator, a crocodile. However you were taught it in elementary school, you can still use that language. I'll try to kind of reference it just to kind of support your bridging what you learned in elementary school to what you're learning now. So the Pac-Man, the crocodile, the alligator, they want to open up and eat the numbers, the values, the points in this case, that have the greater value. They want to eat the things with the greater value. For example, this is not related to the problem. Let's say I have 0. 0 is less than 5. Pac-Man would rather eat the 5 than the 0. Why does the Pac-Man want to eat the 5? Because the 5 has a greater value. How do I know that 5 has a greater value? On a number line, 5 is further right than 0. That's why Pac-Man wants to eat the 5, because it's further to the right than 0. Notice that I'm not saying because 5 is bigger. I'm using specific language. Pac-Man wants to eat the 5 because it's further right than 0. So using that language, if this is Pac-Man and he wants to eat the dot, the point that's further right, which point is further right? P or Q? Q is further right. So that means this Pac-Man is going to eat the Q. And then that only leaves one option for P. P is going to go on the other side. This Pac-Man, he still wants to eat the same point, the point that's further right. Again, that's Q. So this Pac-Man is still going to eat the point that's further right. In that case, that's Q. That only leaves one option for P on the other side. So these are the two inequalities we can write. Show your work. There's really no way to show work here, so why don't we explain? P is less than Q and Q less than P. So I just copied the same things that I have here already. Just typed them out. Because Q is further right than P. And that's how I'm gonna kind of describe my work. I know that these two inequalities are true because Q is further right than P. Notice, I'm gonna explain this a little bit more. Notice that I did not say because Q is bigger than P. Because if I actually label these fractions, Q is 1/10 because there's 10 spaces between 0 and 1, so that means each space is 1/10. And P is -9/10. That's not coming out good. Try that again. -9/10. So when you say Q is bigger than P, some students don't make sense of that. They say, well, 9/10 is bigger than 1/10. So let's avoid that language. Let's always think about inequalities on a number line. And that's why I use this language. I didn't say Q is bigger than P. I said Q is further right than P. And I'll even add a little bit because, to be honest, now that I'm looking at that, that's not a great explanation on a number line. That way, the person that reads this, they understand that. Like, if I draw this out, Q is going to be on the right side of P. Again, let's avoid the language bigger than. Bigger than. That's not good language anymore. We want to say this point is further right than P. All right, next one, number 2. An elevation of -4 meters is higher than an elevation of -8 meters. An elevation of -8 meters is lower than an elevation of -6 meters. Which set of inequalities correctly expresses the relationship? So when we talk elevation, we're talking about height. Like people say that Mount Everest has the highest elevation. It's the tallest mountain. So for this one, my number line is going to be vertical. Up, down. 0. And elevation. So I'm just restating the question. I'm going to break it down sentence by sentence. An elevation of -4 meters. So -4 is under 0 because it's on the negative side. -4 meters is higher than an elevation of -8 meters. An elevation of -8 meters, I already have this on number line, -8 meters, is lower than an elevation of -6 meters. So -8 is lower or under -6. Which set of inequalities correctly expresses these situations? So I have to see which of these A, B, C, or D correctly uses the inequality symbols. So if I start at the top, A, -4 is less than -8. So using the same language that I did on the last problem, but now I'm going to use up and down instead of right. -4 is higher, so further up than -8. So that means that negative 4 is greater than negative 8. Negative 4 is greater than negative 8 because it's further up. So I'm going to look at my inequalities. Which of these say negative 4 is greater than negative 8? Starting with A. A says negative 4 is less than negative 8. That's not true. B says the same thing. Negative 4 is less than negative 8. That's not true. C and D. Negative 4 is greater than negative 8. That's true. Negative 4 is greater than negative 8. That's true because negative 4 is further up. And then the next two inequalities. Negative 8. So it starts with negative 8. Negative 8 is lower than negative 6. So that means negative 8 is less than negative 6. Negative 8 is lower under negative 6. So that means negative 8 is less than. Negative 8 is less than negative 6. So the answer is C. Let's check D. Negative 8 is greater than negative 6. That is not true. What this inequality says that negative 8 is on top of negative 6. Not according to our number line, which is the correct number line. Negative 4 is greater than negative 8 because negative 4 is further up. Negative 8 is less than negative 6 because negative 8 is lower than negative 6. There is a part B. Anders chose B as the correct answer. How might he have gotten that answer? Anders chose B. So this student said negative 4 is less than negative 8. Negative 8 is greater than negative 6. So they're using this idea, the language that I've been telling you to use in this video. Anders probably chose B because he thinks 8 is bigger than 4. So Pac-Man always wants to eat the bigger number. That is not a true statement. Pac-Man does not want to eat the bigger number. Pac-Man wants to eat the number that's further right on a horizontal number line or further up on a vertical number line. Like in C, this is Pac-Man. Pac-Man's eating negative 4 because it's higher than negative 8. Pac-Man is eating negative 6 because it's higher on the number line. So that's what I'm going to type in. Anders might have chose B because he believes negative 8 is bigger than negative 4, negative 6 due to the 8 being bigger than 4 and 6. That is not good reasoning. So that's why he probably chose it. He says, well, 8 is bigger than 4 and 6, so that means negative 8 is bigger than 4 and 6. Negative 4, negative 6. And that's not good reasoning. All right, thanks for watching part 1, where I go over 1 and 2. If you have any questions on 1 or 2, please go see me. You are not bothering me. I would be happy to help. This is tough. This is tough. Inequalities are tough. I hated inequalities. If there's one thing I can truly tell you I hated about math, I hated inequalities. But I have mastered them and I'm happy to help.